Thanks so much to all my patrons. Join now to help support the channel and help pick the books that I review. Link in the description. And I am done. Okay, so I just got done reading A Song for Arbonne. This is a standalone book by Guy Gavriel Kay, and I want to give you my unedited thoughts upon finishing this book, which was literally just right now. So I like this one. I'm going to give it 4 out of 5 stars. It was a pretty enjoyable book from start to finish. I don't know that there was any point where I really felt kind of differently than this, kind of just like straight out of the gate. This just felt like a good book. Never got to those heights of the stories that I want to get to. We'll go into why, but it was very enjoyable. And I can see now why seemingly everybody that I know that has read Guy Gavriel Kay has just loved his writing. Now, one of the first videos that I did on this channel, I mean, truly one of the first 3 or 4, maybe even like the second one, was the Guy Gavriel Kay book, and it was my review of 𝐒𝐮𝐤. And I didn't like it. I think I gave it 2 stars. And in retrospect, I feel like if I were to reread 𝐒𝐮𝐤 right now, it would be a much, much better book. But I did an audiobook, and honestly, I feel like somebody like Guy Gavriel Kay is not to be read in the audiobook format, or not to be listened to in the audiobook format. And I don't just say that personally. This was a book that I did as a buddy read on my Discord channel. Discord server. Channels are like the things within a server, right? So yeah, on my Discord server, we read this book, and it felt like everybody that was doing the audiobook liked it less than the people that were doing the physical read, and I can't quite figure out why. I suspect part of the reason is Guy Gavriel Kay is a truly beautiful writer. I don't know about his physical looks. Maybe he is as well, but like his writing itself is extremely beautiful. I mean, it's very top class. Not because it's like flowery. It is kind of flowery, but it works. It doesn't feel like overly indulging. And he's instantly, one of the most masterful writers in terms of, the beauty of a sentence and how just writing anything mundane could just be incredible if you just put the right words together. And, I don't know if I've ever read a writer where I could say that more about him. I've read some truly wonderful writers when it comes to prose, but he's up there with the greats. And I don't think that's a controversial opinion. And I think, and maybe it's just like my learning style, but it's easier for me to appreciate those sort of things when I read them, with my eyes. When I'm listening to them, a lot gets lost, and I can't appreciate it for what it is. And so when I was doing the audiobook for 𝐒𝐮𝐤, I think all I was reviewing it, was based on like the story. And I don't think, based on 2 of these stories now, that Guy Gavriel Kay writes the best, stories from like a purely the storytelling aspect of it. They've fallen pretty flat. They've been not a ton going on. And I think part of that's the point. It's a lot of like flavor and pulling in the beautiful culture and learning about it and learning about these characters, and less so about the plot. And I just can't appreciate that on audiobook. And so I very intentionally wanted to read A Song for Arbonne on physical book format to try to get over that. Because I've thought this for a while about why I didn't like 𝐒𝐮𝐤 when it feels like everybody else does. And I'm guessing that's why, and I still think it is. And so yeah, and so I can't say enough about the positive things about the way this guy writes. And so let's talk a little bit about that and about this book and how the setting of this book really plays into the strengths of Guy Gavriel Kay. Because the setting of this book is like Renaissance France, like the troubadour, focusing on that aspect of things. Now, I don't know if the world that's being painted here is extremely reminiscent of this part of France. I know it almost feels like it's like a romanticized version of it, or like a more dramatic version of it. But more than anything, what it really felt like was that I was playing The Witcher 3 again. Was playing the DLC where 𝐿𝐴, I think it's 𝐿𝐴, where it's like this silly sort of old French culture that Geralt is spending his time in this part of the world in. It felt like that. like not just a little bit like that either. It felt a lot like that. And I strongly suspect this book was written before that, so I can't say there's anything ripping off, because ultimately I think they're both just borrowing heavily from France, right? But that's what it felt like to me. You know, these people just singing in the streets and being pretty silly, almost like, honestly, it almost felt like if you merged like the zaniness from something like a Rockstar game, and I'm talking very gamer here, but that's the way my brain works sometimes. But almost like if Rockstar made, if Rockstar was in charge in making The Witcher, I feel like this is maybe like the style would have come out here. And it's wonderful. It's so good. Those are my favorite parts of this. Just reading about that. It's fun. I mean, these people just, like a whole culture of it where women are in charge. They're the ones that are the dominant, you know, cultural figures here. And it's expected that women are going to cheat on their husbands. And quite frankly, if a troubadour like this singer woos them in the right way, it's almost like expected that would happen. In fact, some of the times, like, the guy is like insistent that these people like sleep with his wife because of their beautiful songs, and it's a lot sillier than that, even though that seems quite silly. But that's the sort of stuff going on in the story. And the plot almost takes a backseat. The plot loosely is about these two different, you know, countries that are going to go to war with each other. And one is this more masculine-driven sort of world that we kind of view as like a medieval type of world. And the other is that, like, this, you know, this fun, flowery, you know, singers. And these cultures are clashing. And in the midst of that, you have these dukes that have this hugely long feud that are going up against each other. And this character from this more military caste that comes over to try to help the singers in this clash that comes full. But it's not even about that as much. And there's, you know, there's not very much magic in this world. It's very light on that. There's some, but it's pretty light. But it's just living in this world and having a good time and reading a wonderful writer. And so the world building here is just great. The writing's great. The characters are really good. It's just that, you know, it's just the plot that really struggled. Like, I don't want to understate this, but like, not a lot happens in the story. And like, my interest for this book went down as we went along, because I was like, okay, things are great. I love the writing. Everything's going well. Let's get that plot. Let's hit it running, right? And when it never really did, it's just like, what went from me going like, this is going to be incredible, this is going to be a top tier read, because like all of the signs are there, right? And to not get delivered on the most basic aspect of storytelling was a disappointment. But I gave it a 4 still, because like everything else was so great that I couldn't help but enjoy myself. It just, I'm left with that feeling of like, it could have been better. You know, I feel like I'm going to end up reading a Guy Gavriel Kay book someday that just like blows me away, that like everything comes together, the plot, you know, it's not like, I feel like he can do it, right? I feel like he's written a book like this. What am I missing? Where is it? Is it The Lions of 𝐿 I feel like people tell me that I should have read that. In fact, when this one got picked for me to read, I feel like other people said, yeah, I don't know if Matt's going to like that, but he'll like this Lions book a lot more. So maybe that's the next one I got to try. Let me know in the comments. But yeah, ultimately, you know, who do I recommend this book to? I feel like people like that really appreciate great writing. I feel like people that, you know, it's not like this, but in the, like, if you really appreciate somebody like a Patrick Rothfuss, if you really appreciate people like the way Steven Erikson writes, and like how things can almost feel poetic at times, and you sit back and be like, damn, that author is extremely smart, and just blowing it out of the water with how incredible everything just kind of pops out. Like, this is the book for you. And check it out. It'd be I suspect, a decent first book to read from this author, but I've only read 2 books so far, so I'm not the best judge of that. But check it out. I definitely put my stamp of approval on it, and I will be reading more from this author in the future. So that's it for me. Thank you so much for watching this review, and as always, happy reading to you. Thanks again to all my patrons, with a special shout out to my Ascendant tier and Librarian tier patrons: Amy, Alex P, Anna G, Doust, Darren, JD, Jerry, Jonathan, Nev's Book Channel, 𝐿𝐴𝐴, Ron Reich, Russell, Ryan L, Sydney Baker, Slay, Tahir, Anna, Alfredo, Blair, Bevan, Eric Cannon, Joe UK, Kat Mick, Michael Sugarman, Ricky Iman, and Sky. Thanks for sticking to the end of this video, and if you want to watch some more content from my channel, click over here and I've got some good videos for you. Thanks so much.